What a week, what a week, what a tumultuous week. And welcome back to Financial Fitness with Patrick, presented by Soaring Profits, as always, folks. And what a week it's been. Today, we see the NASDAQ roll over 2.5%. Almost $1 billion is wiped off the face of the equities markets today, with a little bit hotter than expected potential read with the job numbers expected tomorrow morning out of the United States. We have had the Fed chair Powell. We have had all of the voices, the zombies, the other Fed chairs come out this week talking about, are we going to see these rate cuts? What's that going to look like? And is it this mythical beast that we're just never going to see in 2024? And that really goes to kind of our conversation today. Our whole concept that what we've been planning for, what we've been investing on and building since November, when the chair Powell of the Federal Reserve Bank decides, hey, listen, we think we are done. We have done the quantitative tightening to the level where we are restrictive in the market. We're ready to go. We think we've hit that peak term rate. Inflation's back. It's back. It's back. And it's probably going to be our third rating next week when we get the CPI, because the PPI was hot. What do we do? How's that going to affect a lot of things? Our equities have hit all-time highs over the last 3.5 months. We got Bitcoin rocketing 65, 70 days of straight up. But how does it affect you? What's going on in your backyard? How's it going to affect your average person's asset classes? And I think it's a great opportunity to bring in Marc Oshiro. Marc is a Remax agent from Honolulu, Hawaii. All the way from the island where I think everyone should want to be. I woke up to 6 inches of snow this morning, so I can only imagine the weather's slightly better down there. Marc, thank you for joining us, pal.
Thanks for having me, Patrick.
Absolute pleasure. Well, and Marc, you coming in as a real estate agent, as well as, and I'm remiss to keep this part out, but investing in mainland United States as well. You are owning properties all around the United States. And you have kind of that finger on the pulse of what's happening because you have the data. You have a lot of the analytics in regards to being an agent and seeing what's going on around there. Talking in your backyard in Honolulu, what are people saying in regards to rates? How are they affecting the prices? How are they affecting the psychological component of buyers and sellers in your own backyard? And then I kind of want to jump in and do some kind of evaluations with you. Let's have a little talk about some of these potential opportunities that are out there mainland that aren't quite that island real estate value, but still hold a ton of opportunity. So, Marc, again, what are your people saying on the streets right now?
Well, as a lot of people probably talk about, Hawaii is probably one of the more expensive markets to try to get into, right? So I want to say, last month, the median single family home still came in above $1 million. So I'm on the island of Oahu, just to clarify. So okay. There is other island, but I am on the island of Oahu. So yeah, the median single family home is still over $1 million. So even though, rates are high sixes, low sevens, for best credit, whatnot, you're still looking at $1 million homes, and the market definitely transaction wise, has slowed down quite a bit. Right. However, people are still buying homes, and there's a lot of investors bringing, foreign money here, right? So a lot of them have a lot of money built up, and they're trying to park it in places with a stable, real estate market, right? So that's why the prices here are always stable. Even like back in 2008, when the market real estate market did take a beating, Hawaii's prices still stayed very stable. So rates are not really affecting prices or values, but definitely transactions have slowed down. It is harder for people, first-time home buyers to try get into the market. That's where we're at right now.
So, Marc, how does that look in regards to listings? Because that's something so in Canada, our mortgage systems are slightly different. We're doing, a 2, 3, 5-year term on our mortgages that are amortized over, 25 or 30-year amortization periods, right? But what we're having is the re-upping, the renegotiation process of these mortgages have gone from, 1% and 2% during, the COVID times to now, like, I'm getting documents on my multifamily stuff that if I'm going certain lengths of time, that 8 and 9%. And like these are not small mortgages. So what we're seeing is this downward pressure on the Canadian consumer. And what we're seeing is the market starting to become saturated with listings. We're seeing a huge amount of listings hitting the market because people are thinking, I have to get out because I cannot refinance. And we've seen in Canada over the last, I'm going to say 3.5, 4 years, probably a 35 to 40% run up in residential, single family residential real estate properties. And again, when you get into some of the larger centers, Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, we see that closer to probably 70% in the last 4 years. That is a wild ride. Now, like everything, is that going to be a bubble? What does that look like? And how do we plan for that? When you see your market there, is that being affected in the same way? Are you seeing a lot of properties hitting, or is it an island and there's only so much land? How does that work?
Yeah, so the one thing I do want to say is, not just specifically Hawaii, but like you said, the U.S. We do have 30-year fixed rate debt, so that is the difference in the markets, and I think that is what is preventing the market from crashing in a lot of places. So you're touching on Hawaii. The interest rates, it has probably prevented a lot of new listings, right? A lot of people are staying in place because they might have refinanced during COVID. They have low interest rate, 2%, 3% interest rate or mortgage rates. So they're kind of locked in. So of course, people are always going to have to move. You have death, divorce, new jobs. So there is listings coming to the market. But as far as people trying to improve or step up, right? Or maybe they got a single family home, a smaller home a few years ago, and then they're looking to improve or build or to a bigger unit, maybe a 4 bedroom. That's really not happening right now because people are kind of locked in. So what a lot of people are doing is kind of renovating properties, right? So they might have a 2 bedroom or maybe a 3 bedroom, but they do have a low mortgage rate. So a lot of these people are accessing maybe HELOCs or lines of credit to renovate these properties, to maybe put that 4th bedroom in, or to maybe add a bunk bed for their, maybe they have a new child on the way. But that's what a lot of people are doing. So the active listings have kind of been suppressed because of somewhat, of a lock-in effect of what the mortgage rates are right now.
Right. And Mark, it's such an interesting dichotomy because I was a young man during 2008 and 2009, but I remember it. And I remember the United States, just the fire sale that was occurring down there, and that our housing rates stayed, very strong. And now we are seeing an exact switch, an exact mirrored image of this, where we are probably down, I would argue 15 to 18% in the last year and a half on single family residential properties, like year over year. And when you've done a 60% run up in most areas in, call it 5 years, that doesn't seem that bad. The problem is there's a lot of people, when the average single family home in Canada is around that $850,000 price range now. If you've bought in the last 3 years, you're upside down. You then went out and bought the truck, you bought the boat, you bought the Sea-Doo, you bought all the consumer debt as well, and now you're trying to figure out, what do I do? And so, Mark, you kind of pivoted. You were a firefighter. Thank you for your service and what you do and keeping our community safe. But you decided you needed to diversify a little bit more around, the COVID times. You saw that there was maybe some things that were going on in the world that you needed to insulate yourself from, and you started investing. And you didn't invest in Hawaii. You invested where?
So I invest, last time, I don't have the exact number, but I want to say it's about 5,000 miles away. So I invested in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Yep. And like you talked about, there's different markets, right? So Hawaii, like I just mentioned, kind of maybe $1 million median single family home price. In Pittsburgh, you're looking at $250,000, and rent typically will be above your mortgage payment in these lower price points. So that's why I invested over there, because the numbers just make sense for me.
Absolutely. And James, if you can throw up that other page as well that we got there. There we go. Looks like he's listening. James, thanks, buddy. Appreciate you. You see him waving back there, everybody? No? Anybody? But again, when we're looking at these properties, here's a map of Pennsylvania. An area that I've been looking at is the Wisconsin, because again, I like it cold, apparently, right? There's nothing like having 9 feet of snow outside in Green Bay looking at properties. But a lot of the price points that you're finding, like this property here, 399, 4 bedroom, 2 bath, 3,000 square foot. Are they having that as a single family? Yeah, single family. Like that's a beautiful piece of property for 399. That house, down the road from me is $2.5 million. And
Yep.
that's where it's hard for somebody that when you start looking outside of your own backyard, you sort of had this like reality shock that what prices are going for. Now, you're in the middle of nowhere, but so what is it? What are some of the things that you're looking for in your Pennsylvania style deals? Let's go back over here and we'll take a look at Pittsburgh.
Well, so I like to tell everyone that I made a lot of mistakes, and it's not an easy process, and there's a lot of learning that goes involved. And I don't think anyone ever really fully becomes an expert. You can kind of somewhat be an expert in your market. So, like for example, you brought up Wisconsin. I can see a home that you bring up, and I can kind of run the numbers and have an idea if it's a possibly a good deal. But I don't know what street it's on. I don't
Right.
know what's in the area. So those are the things that really come into play when whatever market you're looking at. So like Pittsburgh, what really caught me off guard was that it's more from the like transfer title fees. Even the property taxes are a little bit higher than some other areas in the Midwest. And as far as even like winterizing a property, so like you mentioned,
Nice.
I'm in Hawaii. I had no when my property manager was talking about, oh, we got to winterize the property. I was like, huh? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I had no clue what he was talking about, and that's my fault, right? I didn't probably get as much knowledge as I should have. But for me, I'm trying to stay below the median. So maybe in that, at the most, maybe about that 200K price range. I'm looking at maybe 3 bedroom, 1 bath minimum. And what I've really started being more focused on is making sure there's parking. That's something that's super important to me because a couple of the properties that I did purchase, I mean, they're good properties, they rent well. However, you know, property managers were like, you know what, this is always going to be kind of a high turnover property
Right.
because the parking situation for yourself that you have here. And for me, that is not something that I paid attention to as much. And I wish, not that my agent did me wrong or anything. He's
Right.
great.
Right.
He's awesome. I love him.
Yeah.
Just I wish that maybe he was a little more straightforward with me saying, hey, you know what, this is a great property. However, the parking on this street sucks. Like, and
Right.
then that's just something, I've learned during this process.
Well, and that's the thing though, right? Is that, when you're adding doors, like again, when we're looking at some of these here that are, duplex, triplex type properties, when you're adding doors to your residential portfolio in around that, let's call it the first one here that comes to mind, $130,000 for a duplex, you're adding doors for, $65,000, right? Uh, there's going to be hiccups. There's going to be bumps along the way. You're going to have to put some lipstick on that pig. But you're now into that generational wealth creation aspect. And I don't know if you have children. I've got a 14-year-old daughter that this is what we do on Friday nights. We sit around and we look at deals and trying to figure out where we're going next with our dollars. And, you know, I think maybe this goes to some, questions that you can be dealing and digging into specific areas with your real estate team is, rents, the limits that you're going to hit on some certain properties, right? Like as we scroll down here, like this looks like a lovely property, 359.9. We
Hey,
have
that's
the,
mine for sale. No, no, no. I'm
sorry,
just kidding. No.
there you go. Yeah, exactly. He's out. This is his exit, right? But
Yeah.
but that's what I'm saying is that you have these opportunities if you can find the appropriate rental rates of returns, right? And we've seen in Canada our cap rates, your capitalization rates, and that's taking in a number of facets to understand exactly kind of the profitability that you're going to be able to pull out of these properties. The cap rate aspect that we've seen in Canada right now is like 4 and 5%. That's abysmal when you look at American opportunities. Like when I look at Wisconsin, some of the multifamilies, duplex, triplex, even quads, it's not unreasonable to hit a 15 cap. 12 is kind of the bare minimum where I would be even starting at looking. And you take that type of rate difference between a 15 and a 4 or a 3, why would I invest in Canada anymore? I have landlord tenant act problems that, the Canadian government, we have a new, Justin Trudeau came out this week and said that we are going to have a new rights, charter of rights for renters. As a landlord, that is not conducive to business for me, right? I I expect to treat everyone equally. I expect to treat everyone fairly, but I can't have squatters come in and move into my properties and then I can't get them out. So what do we do next, Mark? How do we jump into a deal like this? How do we find some of these deals? What's your experience been thus far to date?
So I think the biggest thing, and it also is somewhat of a problem, is so like for me, coming from Hawaii where the price points are so high,
Right.
you go to some place like Pittsburgh, Wisconsin, and you see these values, and you're just like, oh, these all make sense, right? These
Yes.
numbers make sense, but that's how you can go broke quickly, right? Because
Yes.
you're looking at these values and like, oh, this is only $200,000 and it rents for $2,000. Oh
Yep.
yeah, I'm gonna jump in, and I think that's something that you have to realize is you can go broke by buying cheap, right? So you also have to know the property, but I think the biggest thing is that you have to just get started because that first property that you get is going to teach you so much, and it's also going to put you in connection with different people that can allow you to find these better deals, right? Because a lot of times that first property that you're getting, it's hard to find those home run deals on your first one, right? You don't have the connections that's going to bring you a BRRRR strategy property or a property that's off market or undervalued. So getting that first property kind of gets your foot in the door, and now you can start building these relationships to people that are gonna possibly bring you these deals that make more sense, right? That might, like you said, might need to put some lipstick on a pig, or something that's gonna uh, be able to have an equity play in, or add more value to it, right? Because right now, like you said, the rates are high, right? So a lot of times these deals aren't penciling out based on what your payment's gonna be, right? So if you're buying something straight off of an MLS or Zillow or Redfin or whatnot, a lot of times it's hard to make them pencil out if you're just going to buy something pretty much at market value, right? So I think the biggest thing is getting started. And then the other thing is, if you are going to go straight off the MLS or Zillow, Redfin, is you're going to be looking for properties that have been sitting there, maybe 60 days, right? Looking for properties that have been sitting there for a while, and looking for owners that might need to sell. And the biggest thing is you're going to put in an offer that makes sense for you, right? You're going to put an offer that makes sense to whatever numbers, whatever rent calculation you have, whatever your payment might be. And hey, you may hurt this person's feeling, but that's fine, right? You're going to put in an offer that just makes sense for your numbers. And that's, I think, how you have to approach it.
100%. And again, going to that relationship side of being able to get your feet into the door, create relationships in the industry, and tell people what you're looking for, right? Mark, I'm sure you've had people, you close them on a property, and then they go, hey, I know somebody, right? And that referral base is huge. Well, now you don't get one deal, you get their sale and their purchase, and then that exponentially can grow from there. And one of the last deals that I had on my multifamily, I think it was my fourth property. I bought it on a boat with James. My agent said, hey, man, I got this coming across my table. He sent me a text with it, bunch of pictures, and I had a DocuSign by the end of the hour, and the offer was in and done. And because he knew what I wanted, he knew what my parameters were, and he's like, this literally is walking through the door right now. We can get it done, and it can be over. But it's that relationship piece. He knew my expectations. He knew I had the cash in the bank to close that deal today. Get it done. Close it, move, right?
And the funny, the thing about mentioning that too is even if you didn't have the capital to pull that deal off, you probably knew someone else that could. And I think that's the one thing that I've noticed about getting in this real estate community is that everyone loves helping someone else. And no one always has the capital and resources to take advantage of every single deal, but everyone is willing to pass it on to someone else to have them look at it. And I think, like I said, that's really why, getting in these communities or even just getting that first property. You may think you're not an investor because you have one property, but it really goes a long way just being able to connect with these other individuals.
Well, in systems, right? You get that one that's not you cutting the grass every month, right? And it's like, now I got a guy, I got a plumber, I got an HVAC guy, I got a. And then that's scalable. Before you make that first phone call and you jump into, I need a guy, you don't have a guy. So what do? You're kind of flying by the seat of your pants. And that's the beautiful thing about this is that, it is not passive. This is not a passive game. You can do it from 5,000 miles away, but I bet you take a lot of first phone calls to set it all up. Once you get through that, though, then it can be a little bit more push button. You're not getting the 3 a.m. my toilet's clogged email or call, right? Those are lovely, but now they're on to somebody else and you've established that. But it takes that action. It takes that first one. So Marc, with what you're doing, you've built your real estate business, you're building your portfolio on the mainland. What, giving advice is great, but what is the first actionable item that you can tell people? Is it go out and get accredited where you can go out and put that deal on the table and a number? What does that look like from your perspective, both as an investor and as a real estate professional yourself?
I really think the first place you have to start is going way before even starting, in a sense, right? Is getting your money right, and understanding kind of maybe how money works. And it's not necessarily just saving money. It's about understanding your expenses, or to increase your income, or even just understanding like inflation and how inflation works. But I think it goes all the way back to that, and just changing your mindset on thinking that I'm going to get rich by working my W-2, or I'm going to get rich by putting money in my retirement account. So I think it really goes even further from even like looking at properties or looking at a market. It's really going back to, like you're saying, your financial fitness, right? It's that base, right? Of any, even like an exercise program you're going to start, right? There's always a foundation that you have to start with, your diet and whatnot. And I think that's even this, whether it's real estate, whether it's stocks, whether it's even crypto, right? It's just understanding your money and that mindset portion of it.
Right. Well, I love it. I love what you're doing. I think it's a really cool idea that you have of going from, your days serving as a firefighter in your community, realizing that, like you say, that W-2, or here in Canada, your T4, is not going to create generational wealth for yourself and your family. And a little bit behind stage, we didn't, get too deep into it, but, there's been a lot of crazy shit going on in the last 4 years. And if somebody comes along and says that, great government cushy job is now not so cushy because of, something that might be out of your total control, you need to be able to pivot. And, I love people like yourself, Marc, that take that on, protect your family, protect your interests, and take a stand for what you believe is right. I think we're very similar. A lot of our audience is very similar minded in that kind of approach. But that's what financial fitness is all about, is that, you don't have to be silver spoon fed. You don't have to come from huge money, but there's a ton of opportunities out there. It's literally just get out of bed, jump off the couch, start making some phone calls. Marc wants your phone call. If you think that there's an opportunity that he can work with you in your area, he's going to be able to do something for you. So Marc, how do people get in touch with you? How do they do some business with you? And what are your socials that way?
Yeah, I'm pretty much, financial firefighter. So the fire, represents, I'm in the fire department, but also that financial independent, retire early kind of community or mindset. But yeah, so I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I've been a lot more active on X recently. I kind of enjoy it over there. And I have a YouTube channel, Financial Firefighter, weekly guests, weekly regular guests too. So people, we're really trying to help people, like you said, change their mindset, but also even we talk about different side hustles, things that do, maybe your job doesn't allow you, you can't, there's no overtime, or there's no, maybe there's promotion wise, you're not there yet, but other ways to try to increase income, right? And I think that's the biggest thing too. If you can try to figure out a way to increase your income, that's going to help you put more money away to invest and whatnot.
100%, pal. And again, check out Financial Firefighter. 214 videos. This guy's throwing out some pretty good content here. I didn't realize you had that many videos. That's awesome. And like and subscribe and share this stuff, right? You folks from Soaring Profits and Financial Fitness, between our two channels, the Financial Fitness and Soaring Profits, we're having about 35,000 views a month. And we are so grateful for that. But when you folks send this, when you send this to your kids, your uncle, your grandkids, whoever it is that's doing that, you're giving them a leg up. When you share Marc's content, you're giving them a leg up, and you're creating a mindset. You're creating that, hey, it's not stupid shit on TikTok that I'm going to for that background noise. I'm doing it as an educational path. I can throw a podcast on and drive my hour to work. I can, whatever that looks like, but it's something that is digging into my mind, planting that seed. And I can't stress that enough. Guys like Marc who have done it, they've shed blood in the trenches. They've made these deals happen. They're a plethora of knowledge. You just need to click play. So like, subscribe, and share. Check it out. And from me, folks, it's always such a fun time when we get great people like Marc. Marc, I appreciate you very much. From me, folks, let's make some money together, guys.